Hello, my name's Dominic Orr. Unfortunately, I can't be with you at the World Conference for Online Learning in Dublin, so I've taken the advantage of presenting a virtual paper to you. I'll be talking about pathways through higher education in 2030. This is based on a foresight study we did for the German government, which was published earlier this year. We looked at the question, what will higher education look like in 2030? And we took a surprisingly unusual approach because we tried to answer this question from the perspective of the new student. So you'll see that we've got 4 models. They're each named after a particular children's toy. We just thought it might be easier to remember them that way. But we're also playing with a few ideas, and you can see that here with Tamagotchi. This is a closed ecosystem built around the student. We see this as pretty much the traditional organizational model of higher education for young people at the start of their career. It aims to prepare students for their future by ensuring that they obtain the competencies that they need for the future and that can be applied in many different settings. The didactical model is to support learning with a learning pathway designed as an intensive study block with set steps. Technology can be applied here to make studies more flexible in terms of timing and place, but essentially it is built around this classic model of higher education. If we move on to Jenga, this model has a different starting point. It looks at what is needed for a stable fundament in a long learning pathway. Perhaps the first phase of higher education doesn't need to be 3 years long. It can be shorter and topped up later depending on the needs of the learner and the demands of the labour market. The didactical model must focus on giving students the skills, competencies and motivation to be able to continue their learning. Technology can support this by providing support structures for learning in this first study block, but particularly afterwards where we assume learning will be happening in lots of different places. It should support choice, provide recommendations on personalization, learning analytics, but also recognition of this learning. Things like blockchain and open badges can play a role here and in the subsequent models. Lego takes one step further away from the classic organizational model of higher education. This model is driven completely by the learners. They choose from all the different study opportunities in long and short study blocks with periods on campus, online and in the workplace. This kind of study bricolage is common in new professional fields in the workplace, like for big data analysts, machine learning and blockchain, all in the sector of IT, or for many new types of job in the service sectors. It is a highly flexible model, but also requires a high level of personal and professional maturity on the part of the learner. So technology can be used to provide adaptable support structures which can help this learner also to recognize their learning achievements, but to recognize where the other appropriate learning opportunities can be found. Finally, we have the transformer model. This is like traditional higher education, but its starting point is a little different because it recognizes that learners, especially when they're older, already have the knowledge and experience from the labour market and from life that they would like to bring into their studies. This is the great organisational challenge then, both for how higher education is provided and how the learning space is organised so that it can be flexible but supportive of these learners at the same time. So in a way, it's a mixture between what we've heard in the Tamagotchi model with all the support, but in the Lego model with the flexibility and the recognizing of what the learner actually wants themselves. So from both of those, it takes the technology. So this leaves us with these 4 learning pathways which we can be thinking about for higher education. The big question is, what does that really mean for higher education institutions today? And what does it mean for recognizing all those different learning pathways that students probably already have, but we don't have a good structure to actually be able to both recognize learning happening there and support the learning so that higher education happens in this wide open space we all live in today. I'd be very happy to continue the discussion with you on my Twitter feed, for example, and many other places. I wish you a great conference.